you're starting with a key account. So first is very important that you kind of outline what's the overall objective or the goal that we are trying to reach out to. What is it that we're trying to achieve? Number one. Number two, which is very, very important, is define all stakeholders which are there in that particular organization, which is your key account, and how is it that you can kind of lead them to that particular objective that you've defined at the start. So, and once you have that aligned, and then when you start your planning and they actually see the value that you're driving for each of the stakeholders. Just as an example, so for example, when we start with any key account which is onboarded, and so there are multiple stakeholders. Like for example, like Rasha mentioned, that there is a brand team, there is a commercial excellence team, there is a procurement, there is a finance. So when we define all goals and how can we correlate to each of them, then that is where I think when they do see that what is the value that we are adding from each of them and how that's collectively actually helping us to achieve that.
So I think, the point that probably I would like to mention is it all starts from understanding the account needs, right? I mean, to be honest, there are two things. One is that if you approach an account and you're part of a BD or sales or account management, people do have that risk and they will think, okay, there's some short-term gain that this person's coming in for. I think it's a little bit like farming. We very much talk about it in our organization here. I mean, it's a process like farming. I mean, you're there when you sow the seeds and you're there when you're reaping the crop. So it has to be a one view, right? I mean, whatever you do, there has to be an account view of end to end. You cannot segregate sales, BD and everything. And when you actually know the account needs, and then you can align your actions to it, I think you're there for the long haul. So all these concerns on what you're bringing, is it expensive? Why are you doing this? Why are you giving me this support? All these concerns can very well be addressed because it's part of a journey, right? So and internally, I'm sure all of us need to have those processes as been highlighted by the other speakers, that, we need to have a process where we're looking accounts as planning. We need to have a process in which we are monitoring accounts and we are discussing accounts, and we are not kind of looking at one particular thing that, okay, have we done this as a tick mark, right? And this constant planning and monitoring and refreshing the feedback to adjust our process is something that we are there and we keep doing it for months and years. So then everything looks holistic and it's not opportunistic.
So let me just say that, to answer your question, Vivek, that do they see value in what we are talking about, or do they just look at us as, products and discounts and stuff like that? So the answer is yes, they definitely see a value. Now it all depends on whom are you going and interacting with, right? So that, like you have in a hospital an infection control committee. So you will have a microbiologist sitting there, you will have a purchase head sitting there, you will have a couple of other doctors, a critical care specialist, so on and so forth. When they come with a protocol of, let's say, an antibiotic that you're going to prescribe, and let's say a certain type of surgery, and so on and so forth. So there is a committee that sits. Similarly, when you're talking about key account management plan, if you're going to talk about the joint business plan only to the purchase head or the pharmacist, he's not going to see the value. He or she is not going to see the value. You've got to get a complete committee. So let me give you an example. So when I am talking to a modern trade account, let's say an organized chain or an online pharmacy, I talk to the founders of the account, right? So it is the founder. He or she sits with the purchase head. He or she sits with the business development guy. So it's a committee that I'm the finance guy, and they sit together. Right? And I go there and I actually explain my plans for the account, right? What is the mutual value creation that we are having? But if I'm going to talk to only the purchase guy there, he or she is not going to see the value. So it's
Absolutely.
important that you identify, that's why I said in your blueprint, your stakeholder mapping that you will have. Who is it that are critical and whom do you have to, there'll be some stakeholders where you'll have to only keep them warm, keep them informed. But there are some stakeholders where a conscious engagement plan has to be there.